Joanna Lindenbaum is the creator of the Applied Depth Practitioner Institute and the Sacred Depths Transformational Practitioner Certification. She believes that health coaches spend perhaps too much time fussing about their marketing and business development and not enough time perfecting the craft of coaching. And that actually becoming an effective coach is one of the most important business development efforts you can make. And we completely agree. You found your way to this podcast because you're a practicing or aspiring health coach looking to make an impact on people's lives. So let's dive in with Joanna and see where you can make some moves to become a world-class, life-changing health coach. Hi, I'm Erin Power.
And I'm Laura Rupsis.
We're certified health coaches, and this is Health Coach Radio.
This podcast is about the art, science, and business of health coaching.
We share our insider tips to help you become a better coach and entrepreneur.
And we interview expert guests to discover how they've made it in this growing field.
It's time for health coaches to make an impact.
It's time for Health Coach Radio.
All right, Joanna, how are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. We love talking about transformation and change. It's what health coaches do. So you're an expert in this field. Do you mind giving our listeners, I guess, the 5-minute backstory on you and kind of how you started and where you are?
Yeah, absolutely. So I really kind of fell into this work. I always like to say it was by accident, which I know a lot of coaches, they didn't intend to get there, but I have my master's in art history. And way back, over 20 years ago, I was doing the art history thing and the museum thing. And I just was always seeking opportunities for my own transformation and my own self-awareness and my own self-evolution, just kind of making myself better and better. And through that process, I discovered coaching, really by way, it's a little different than most people, really by way of women's ritual. So the first thing I discovered was women's rituals. And I started participating in this community where women would gather every month and really connect inwards and connect to their souls and their deepest desires and their fears. And that kind of led me to coaching. I got trained as a coach. And as my business grew, I wasn't working with entrepreneurs. I was working with people on transformation and, just achieving any kind of goals they brought forward in some ways. But as my business grew, more and more of my clients were like, hey, how are you growing your business? Mm-hmm. And so it's funny how one thing leads to the next. For a period of time, I was supporting women coaches and other types of healing practitioners in growing their businesses through different, marketing and leadership. But here's the thing. What I noticed after a number of years of doing this is that the reason why my clients were so successful in their own businesses, yes, it absolutely had to do with the marketing that I was teaching, and it absolutely had to do with the leadership. But what I saw was that the other reason why they were so successful is because they were co-creating amazing results with their clients. They were using the work that we were doing together as a model to apply to their one-on-one work and their group work. And that was yielding them renewals of clients that were renewing, tons of referrals from happy clients who wanted, everyone to know about them. And also they were so confident in the results that they could create. Their marketing was getting stronger through that. And that was kind of like a light bulb moment for me where I realized, oh, this is really the deeper piece that I've been teaching my clients without realizing it. And that's when I kind of brought that to the forefront and started creating coach and practitioner trainings to support coaches to be able to go deeper with their clients, to create more transformation, to know how to deal with, the fears and the obstacles and the limiting beliefs that always get in the way when humans are trying to reach their potential and their goals.
Cool. Okay. Interesting. I think this is cool because one thing that you touched on is, it's so clear. This is going to sound punny by accident, but it's very clear to me that coaches are seeking clarity and they're seeking confidence. But confidence is practice and clarity comes from confidence a lot of the time, right?
Right.
Yeah. I think a lot of, but look, the question we get asked often first from new coaches that graduate and just got certified is, okay, how do I put myself out there? And there's just a lack of confidence and clarity in that question. It's like, who are you? What do you do? Why should anybody work with you? So it's interesting that the relationship between confidence and clarity, I think, is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So you work on coach and practitioner training to help these practitioners have more transformational coaching relationships. Is that correct? So you're doubling down on the actual coaching relationship and the outcomes.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, what I've seen in the coaching industry over the last X amount of years is that, and I love the coaching industry so much. And what I've also seen is that there are a lot of broken marketing promises. So a lot of times a client will register, sign up, hire a coach. And at the end of their time together, they haven't achieved the results that they thought they were going to achieve. Now, sometimes that happens because those weren't the results they were meant to achieve, and it goes in a very aligned different direction. But that being said, what I've noticed over the years is that there are a lot of coaches out there who know their expertise really well. They know their how-tos, they know their information, but they don't really have the skills to support their clients through the inevitable resistance that comes up, even with the best information, through the inevitable fear that comes up, procrastination, self-sabotage. That's not really taught a lot. And the thing is, human beings are human beings. They're wonderful and they're messy all at the same time. And really, when a human being is in a process of growth, some kind of fear is almost always going to come up. And so coaches having these skills to work with the fears and the resistances, especially in this day and age when we're all holding so much as human beings, is vital. And so going deeper, like you're saying, into those coaching relationships, into really supporting our clients to get over the obstacles and the humps that are going to happen. We have to count on some obstacles showing up. So when you're having those skills are gold if you're a coach.
Mm-hmm. When I teach our advanced coaching course, I always tell the coaches that one of our biggest opportunities is having the client identify their barriers and then helping co-create the path over those barriers. I really have started to believe that that's one of our biggest opportunities as coaches.
Yeah, I agree so much. And it's like similar to what you're saying, like, let's actually have clients identify at the outset what the potential barriers might even be, so that you can already be ready for it, not go into shame or anxiety when it comes up, and know how to work with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was going to ask a question here, because so much of what you're describing to me is what coaching is. And if someone's going to go to market as a coach, but they don't have those skills, is it because, so I guess I'm asking kind of clients that you work with, are these people that are experts in an area that go to market become as a coach because they know this area very well, but they never really got the training? Like they haven't earned a well-regarded full certification yet where they would have learned these skills? Or is it just a matter of they graduated, they got the training, but what they lack is the experience that gives them the confidence, and they keep leaning on their expertise rather than the coaching skills?
Yeah, it's a great question. So actually, both of those things, but really the majority. So I have people that are beginners who've never been trained before. I have people who have been through coach trainings. I also have students come in that have been coaches or therapists for decades, and they're looking for new techniques, different ways of being able to go deeper with their clients, of being able to support their clients. And yes, absolutely. I think that if you've been through a training, you have experience, you definitely have the foundational tools to support people through their obstacles. And it'd be interesting to hear if you agree with this or not, because maybe you've seen some different things. What I've really seen is, especially over the last years, people are in some ways therapized and coachified, and they know the surface layers of these are my fears or these are my patterns, and this is kind of what I could be doing to get beyond it. And yet oftentimes they're still stuck. And so having some other kind of tools to add to the toolbox, somatic tools, tools that support clients to go into their body to befriend the fear or to look at their shadows and harness what I like to say is like harness the shadow energy, basically going beyond the cognitive tools into some of the heart tools, the somatic tools can oftentimes make the difference between I know what my habits are and what I should do, but I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, intellectualizing it doesn't work. It just makes me feel like a bigger idiot and what's wrong with me? Like I know what to do. Why aren't I doing it? So and we've heard from people before too that's saying a very similar thing, being able to really dig deep and connect to the actual emotion that's in there and connect to the physical feeling that at the end of the day is often what we're trying to avoid.
Yes,
You know, and connect to that and realize, you know what, that feeling will go away. It doesn't, right? But it won't go away unless we face it.
yes, absolutely. It can pass. I always say lean into the feeling. And then here's the other piece, which is such a crucial skill for practitioners, is as practitioners, we actually want to support when a fear comes up, for example, we want to support our clients to be able to tell the difference between, is this a here and now fear? Is this a fear that's really, we're meeting the present moment? Or is this fear coming up a then and there fear? Something happened to me in the past, and that I'm projecting that past fear onto the present moment. So, for example, with coaches, let's say they have created an amazing marketing plan, and they part of it is doing videos and being more visible on videos. And there's procrastination and procrastination and procrastination on that, right? And let's say then we start to work with the client and we see, oh, there's this fear of being visible. There's this fear of, people are going to think I'm a fraud if I do these videos. That's great, right? So that's step one. We're identifying what the fear is, right? And then maybe step two, we're supporting a client not to run away from the fear, but to feel like, where do we feel that fear in the body? How does it feel? What is it saying, right? But then from there, back to this distinction I was talking about before, by the leaning into the feeling, then we can start to work with our client and that feeling to say, is this a present day fear? Like, is our survival actually threatened if you make this video? Or is this about when you were 9 years old and you got made fun of for being in the play, and that is coming up now? Supporting clients to be able to make that distinction between the here and now and the then and there is so huge in them being able to then make different decisions, even if they are feeling the fear. The idea isn't to stop feeling the fear. We're humans, we're always going to, but it's like, how can we tap in to our ability to feel it and then make a different decision because we know there's not a threat in front of us.
There's so much in there because we all have this baggage and crap that we bring with us from our childhood that has, I guess, influenced where we feel confidence, where we feel insecure. And I know many people, I hate to say it, but mostly men, who are extraordinarily insecure but they boast a lot. There's a lot of cockiness going forward in trying to mask that fear. And they end up undermining themselves in other ways. I heard you use the term self-sabotage, like this closet way of, not a closet way, but in seemingly, accidental way that things just get shut down. That's sort of outside of our control. We want to blame the forces outside of our control with our inability to follow through on something, when in reality, a lot of this it all comes from within. And being able to unwind that, boy, is that sticky. But it's so true. And the example you used about the coach that's afraid to put out the video, very apropos, because we hear that stuff all the time, particularly in the health coaching space, where there are seemingly millions of experts out there that all have polarizing opinions, totally different from each other. And so being afraid to put something out there and being afraid to be called a fraud or hey, this has already been said before. I think once you've done it enough, the fear kind of goes away. Like once you've been through that experience and somebody says something mean to you online and you realize, okay, I didn't die, I didn't enjoy it, but I didn't die. And there's ways to manage that kind of stuff. The more you get desensitized to that and the fear doesn't go, but you're never going to get over the fear unless you do it. So I would love to talk maybe some strategies, some tools that you're referring to here that can kind of help with some of these conversations. Do you mind sharing a little bit? Maybe we can use that as an example.
Yeah, absolutely. So, first thing always I say is awareness, right? So when it comes to self-sabotage, like you're saying, it's so easy for someone to be like, oh, but that just always happens, or it was out of my control, or it wasn't me, right? So before we're even going to start to work with any of the underlying fears, first step is we need to have those creating awareness skills to support clients to see oh, wait, no, that's because I'm procrastinating, or that's, because I'm just feeling victimized by my situation, but I actually have a lot more power here than I thought I did. Or, oh, wait, that's because I'm not following up on sales conversations, and that's why I'm not, making the sales or whatever it is. Now, this first step of creating awareness, sometimes it's easy peasy, right? Sometimes we can just simply reflect back, wondering what you think about this, but it sounds like you might be procrastinating, right? Or you ask a great question, how might you be procrastinating in this situation, right? And the client is willing to see it right away. Other times, we want to use a little more skill when we're creating awareness, because the client will have defenses about this because they don't want to see it, because they are really scared to take the action. And if their ego lets them see oh, wait, no, this is actually in my control, then they have to take the action, right? So that's when we want to use more of our advanced tools to support a client. And also in not feeling shame, right? We want to, as part of this, normalizing is so important, right? Normalize that people get stuck, that they procrastinate, whatever it is. I heard this great quote a couple months ago from Brene Brown. She said, normalizing is the opposite of pathologizing. And I just loved that, because I think what happens so much for our clients is that they go out to, reach a goal that they set for themselves, and then they don't get there. And then on top of the issue of, okay, I haven't gotten there yet, they pile shame on it, right? I'm the only one, other people are able to do this, right? All the things. And then that actually becomes the bigger obstacle than the original fear itself, right? So as practitioners, we want to be able to create awareness, but do it while normalizing, doing it in a way that's empowering for our clients.
That's really true. It's very true. The pathologizing, I feel like these are the conversations I have with my clients all the time. Clients will come in with these identity statements. I always self-sabotage. I'm lazy. I'm unmotivated. And it's like, no, you're not. Look at everything you're doing. But like, I honestly think that the health industry has, well,
Right.
it's sort of really disempowered people.
Yes.
Don't get me started on diet culture and how it's unfortunately ruined our brains. But I just feel like my role as a health coach, I barely half the time ever talk about food. I barely ever talk about exercise. I'm usually helping the client see the ways in which they're trying the possibilities, explore their feelings though with just curious non-judgment. So, because what we don't want to do, what isn't useful is over cheerleadering. No, you're not. Come on. We need them to see and understand. And that's one of our really amazing opportunities. I always think it's pretty cool. And this does make a distinction between the coach that has a program that's sort of hands off and like, do my program, follow my plan, follow my program, versus the coaching relationship, as we get to have these very meaningful conversations. And I go back to this advanced coaching course I teach. I tell these students at the beginning of class that they're going to be amazed by the conversations they end up having, and they always are. They thought they were going to be talking about the grams of carbohydrates and bananas, but almost never comes up.
Yes. Yeah. The expertise is great, but it almost becomes the side conversation. And really the bigger conversation is about, I always say, like, the bonus gift, if you're coaching really well, the bonus gift for your clients isn't just that they achieve their results, but they actually learn how to love themselves more, how to have more self-compassion, how to move through the world in a way where they value themselves and they know that they have resilience. And I think it's so much of that is related to what you're talking about, for sure.
Keto, carnivore, paleo, AIP, SCD, low FODMAP, so many diets, so much confusion. And if health coaches are having a hard time keeping up, imagine how clients must feel. To make sense of it all, Primal Health Coach Institute partnered with registered dietitian and health coach Martha Tettenborn to create a comprehensive functional therapeutic diet specialist certification. This flexible online course dives deep into the many different types of therapeutic diets. You'll learn the purpose of each of these diets and how to help your clients map out a nutritional plan to resolve their specific health issues. As a certified functional therapeutic diet specialist, you'll help people reach a deeper understanding of food as medicine and transform their lives for the better. Find out more at primalhealthcoach.com.
The school that Erin and I work for, we also do some corporate wellness coaching. And I had a company that I was going through round 2. And so when you go through round 2, a lot of people already have gotten through the educational component already. And so what I heard at the end of this second round wasn't just how much clearer they are on what to eat and how to move and all this other stuff. What I heard resoundingly was they finally learned how to let that go and love themselves and make a decision for themselves from a place of love and care and nurturing. Because I kept pounding that home the first time we went through it. But I think because the information was still so new and they were getting so much of it, they were, I guess, distilling it. And so when they were getting it the second time around and they had heard it again, now they can kind of pick and choose what they need in the moment. And so was this huge aha moment for me, that giving people all this information, I mean, a program's important. And to a certain degree, I kind of view that as people want cake and ice cream, but what they really need is the broccoli and steak or whatever. And so I'm going to live, here's the cake and ice cream, but we want to lure them in to get what they really need. Right. So that's completely fine. But the true expert and a well-trained coach knows when to use the right piece of information, the right piece of expertise at the right time when the client's ready to receive it and actually do something with it. Instead of having it in the back of their mind about how, I should do this, I should do that, and I'm not doing it. Right? We're bombarding them with all this information about what they should be doing, but they're not in a place to actually execute on it consistently. And so they're sort of left feeling as though, I should be doing. It was a big aha moment for me. And I don't know how to reconcile that for something like a group program anyway.
Yeah, yeah, I love that you're bringing this up. And so, first of all, absolutely. I mean, I've just seen this happen over and over again. I mean, we're bombarded with information. Anybody can go and Google, this, that, or the other thing and get, what they should do. Sometimes that information is trustworthy, sometimes not. That's another conversation. But yeah, the point is that people have the information and then they don't know what to do with it. I think with coaching programs, what I have seen, it's such a great question, is, well, a couple of things. And I could talk forever and ever, so just stop me when I've said too much, but a couple of things on this. Number one, when we think about designing our group programs and we think about the curriculum, what we want to do is include in the curriculum a combination of, we could call it like surface content or informational content, and then always pair it with inner work, right? So when I am teaching practitioners about how to create a visibility plan, we're not just looking at information, we're not just like tailoring the visibility plan, but then we actually, as part of that, how we do work on fears of visibility or fears of looking like a fraud or fears of others getting angry at us, so that every piece of information, number one, is given space and spaciousness to land. And then there's an inner component that is alongside it so that the information can be received and integrated. I think the other thing that people forget with group coaching programs, this happens naturally in one-on-one work, but you need to actually think about it beforehand with group work, is that the way human beings learn and grow and move forward is cyclical, not linear.
Mm-hmm.
And a big mistake related to all of this that a lot of course creators make is that they create the information in a linear way. Like, we've looked at this topic once and then that's it, we're done with it. And then we're on to the next and we're on to the next, instead of continuing to come back to this understanding that learning is cyclical. So even if we've looked at topic A in the first month, how can we pull threads of it into the second month of the program, into the third month of the program, come back to it at its different levels and layers, because that's how people learn and that's how people embody information and then use it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. One thing that's taught in health coaching schools is this trans-theoretical model, which is the stages of change. And honestly, I think a lot of coaches probably worry about that more than they need to, because it's not really pertinent in the realm of the coaching relationship. But what is pertinent is what's called the processes of change, which is how people move from stage to stage. So while, in theory, people move from pre-contemplation to contemplation to action to maintenance, and often to graduation, to your point, they're churning around kind of in between those stages of changes and might take steps back. So it's things like their environmental inputs, their structural supports, the support they have in their family. It's like it's going out and running experiments and kind of learning how to fail better and feeling confident to come back and report that into the coach from the perspective of wanting to learn. And it's a type of growth that hasn't really been well facilitated in the health and wellness industry. It's sort of like when I think of the health and wellness industry, which I've been in for my whole life, it's like earn and burn. Kind of, if you do the work, you get the results. It's very, very linear, So we're in a lot of ways, we're training our clients to be, and training is not the right word, but it's the only word that came to mind, or maybe socializing them to the idea that this fluidity is a good thing. It's natural, it's inherent. This isn't a backslide. This is natural. This is the natural ebb and flow of change.
Yes, absolutely. I love that you're using the word socializing, because I think it's a cultural, particularly in the Western world, kind of myth that we just progress forward in this linear way. There's no stops and starts. There's no like step back. And it's really harmful, like to anyone, it's just really harmful because that's just not how human beings be, And then we think there's something wrong with us when actually we're going through that natural process of change. So again, the socializing is like, the more we can normalize this, then the less shame people have, the less self-judgment people have, and the more our clients are willing to just be with it and work with it and move forward in those ways.
The one thing that I hear from clients, I've already mentioned this once in this conversation, but it comes up every time when I have consultations with prospective clients quite often, and I'm asking them in these discovery calls before we're working together to start thinking about their health and happiness goals in this way. Like, what do you think has gotten in the way? Like, what's this gap between where you are now and where you want to be? And they'll always say something self-deprecating or to the effect, it's usually the I self-sabotage. And I'll say, tell me more about that. What do you mean by that? And they'll say, well, like I'm good for a while and then something happens in my life and then I fall off the wagon and then I can't get back up. And it's like, well, that doesn't sound like self-sabotage. It just sounds like life, actually. So what if instead we just figured out how to work with that? And it's really it's exciting / bewildering for clients, for health consumers to realize that was ever on the menu.
Yes. Yeah. That's let's accept that as this is my process. This is my unique way of doing things. And how can we actually leverage that?
Right.
Yeah. 100%. And I love that you brought up the concept of cyclical, and I found that to be true with this group program. And Erin's talking about how people go through this sort of whirlwind process of moving from one stage of change to the other. And a lot of times I have found is that stage of change is often different depending on what aspect of health we're talking about. Back when I still see it in the gym I coach at, but I owned a CrossFit gym for a number of years. And I had a lot of people that were all in on getting their butts kicked at the gym, like harder, give it to me again kind of thing. But God forbid you touch my fried chicken and beer, or God forbid you tell me to go to bed before 11, even though I'm at the 5 a.m. class, right? So they're going to be in stages of change in various aspects of their life. So I have a question for you to see if, and for both of you, if you have an opinion here, is do we lean into where they're ready to change? Because there's two schools of thought. People like, I need to work on the stuff I'm bad at, and how frustrating that can be when people can't seem to get past but again, maybe they aren't seeking coaching. Or is it sort of leaning into and going with the momentum in one area that we can then pull forward stuff that they kind of want to work on too? I mean, do you have any thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, what I have seen over and over again is it's actually kind of a combo of the two. So, and what I mean by that is we don't want to force clients to try to change in places that they're not ready. That's just a recipe for disaster and failure all around. We can only support clients where they're ready. So in that way, to the second piece that you said, we want to kind of support them and hold the space and the container for them for the places where they're ready to change. But that being said, sometimes clients are ready to change, but it's just that the most outer layer presents as resistance. And so we want to have the skills to kind of poke at the outer layers of resistance with a client to be able to see, oh, is this really this is not the right time yet? Or is this really, we just needed to kind of do some work on the resistance and there's a readiness inside of that. So never forcing, ever, 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 always with the client leading the way and being the one empowered to say, I don't want to, no, right, whatever it is. But also, I think practitioners, it's important for us to have the skills and the loving courage to be willing to challenge our clients on those places of resistance and then work to poke some holes and see what's there.
Yeah, I mean, the client-led coaching relationship is a partnership. And I think of the coach as being in the leadership role, but beside the client instead of like up in front of them or over and above them. And so you get this really very productive give and take when you empower the client to be a co-leader with you, which we have to establish that really early on. You know, coaches balk at that. Well, the client is leading the conversation. Yeah, they are, but clients balk at it too.
Mhm.
My clients are like, I thought you were going to tell me what to do, and it's like, well, we're gonna actually co-create if that's okay with you. It's more useful.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
just think through the potential transfer. I get so excited. I get very excited about the transformational potential of coaching. And I get excited to share it with clients who have never been held in that way, held by a coach. It's like, you're going to be amazed at how different this is. You're going to be amazed at how much you actually know, the expertise you already have. You're going to be amazed at what resources you already have on board. I'm going to nurture that. We're going to nurture that out of you. And it's a really fun paradigm shift we get to be part of. And it's been fun for Laura and I to watch health coaching mature over the last several years. Um, and the level of transformation we can create is pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. It's funny because from the beginning of when our school started to now, I get a lot of the same questions. And one of them was always, well, I live in a state where I can't give nutrition advice, so I can't be a health coach. And in the beginning, for me, I kind of played into that for probably like the first year or two. Not that they couldn't practice. I'm like, of course you can practice. Here's how you work around that rule. Now it's, well, coaching has nothing to do with nutrition advice. So we're all good there, and it's, let's have a conversation about what coaching really is. And does that align with what you really want to do? Because if what you want to do is put someone on a diet, then maybe coaching's not what you want. Maybe you want to do something else. And that's going to now require that you go get a 4-year degree, sit through a 1-year internship and take your board exam, But if you want to coach and you want to help people actually change behaviors for the long term and provide them with resources and a toolkit that allows them to keep advancing on their own power, that's what coaching is. Nutrition talks are they're a tool like anything else. They're a tool in the process that at the right time, when you're ready, we can take that in advance and you can ask me a million questions and I'll answer your questions. And then I'm going to ask you what you're going to do with that. Why do you ask a question? And what are you going to do with the answer?
Yeah.
But health coaching has matured so much that now we can point to examples. There are more and more just really great coaches that are great at this, that we can point to examples on, here's what we really mean. And now I don't know about you, Erin, but now I kind of get like grouchy when I see people out there calling themselves health coaches that they're not coaching.
I get real grouchy about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always say, there's a difference. Coaching sometimes includes consulting, but there's a difference between being a consultant and a coach. And don't call yourself a coach if you're actually a consultant. And, along with that and to everything that was just said, one of the pieces in that is, if you're a coach, don't ever be attached to how a client is going to achieve their goals, right? Like that's the difference between they need to go on this diet or they need this exercise regimen, this, that, and the other thing. It's an attachment to the strategy. And the moment with anything in coaching as practitioners that we get attached to, it has to look this way or the client has to do it this way, is when it's no longer that partnership. We're no longer really hearing, seeing, witnessing, loving, honoring our clients, and it's turned into something else.
That's an interesting point of view.
Mm-hmm.
That took me a long time to figure out. I'm like almost an embarrassingly long time, because anecdotally I have this nutritional strategy that I think is pretty much the bee's knees. I think everybody would just like be amazing if they followed it, but I barely prescribe it anymore. Like, sort of like, what do you want to do? What feels right to you? And it's wild to me that I was able to lobotomize myself away from my own dogma, or my own bias, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm dealing with this right now because now I am this very enlightened coach. It's just, focused on client transformation. And this is a very specific example, but there's a medication that's becoming very popular, that helps people lose weight in kind of the same way my health coaching program helps people lose weight, sort of. It's a quick fix, unfortunately, but that's what people have always wanted. That's what everyone's always wanted. They've always wanted a quick fix, and now there is one if you can afford it and get your hands on it. And so I'm finding myself open-minded to it. And I'm sharing like, hey, you know what? If you're looking at this drug, I get it. You want it to happen quickly. You've tried a million things. I'm here to support you. If you decide to go out and get it, I'm here to support you. You wouldn't believe the pushback I get from my peers, my health coaching peers. I can't believe you would encourage people to go and take a drug. I'm like, I'm not. I just know what they want. I just know this client is desperate for an outcome, and they'll do anything for an outcome. And I want to just be there as a soft place for them to land if they do decide to go this route. Confronting our biases is a really interesting exercise for health coaches to go through.
Yeah. Confronting them and then checking them when we're listening and responding to clients. It's huge. It's huge. I love that story. I'd have to say, just from, not being a health coach, but a trainer of coaches, I love that you're doing that, Erin, because it really, to me, it's not just, it's confronting the biases like you're saying, but it's about, I'm going to empower, so long as my client isn't harming themselves, I am going to hold a space that is empowering for them, and supportive of them, and trusting that so long as I'm asking questions, right, that their inner wisdom about themselves is way greater than any opinions I might have about what they need.
Yeah. This idea of them not harming themselves, that's actually the spirit behind it. It's like, they're going to do it anyway. They're going to do it anyway. So what if I was there to help them do it? It's this black and white thinking. We try to coach our clients away from black and white thinking. I spend a lot of time doing that. And I think as coaches, we need to do that ourselves as well. So be open to nuance.
Yeah. Well, I think the ability to be able to work with people too there, Erin, because that drug you're speaking to, essentially it creates satiety. They're just not hungry anymore. And the methodology that Erin uses and what we teach our coaches how to do is how to develop a nutritional strategy that creates a sense of satiety, and people lose weight seemingly effortlessly because they're no longer hungry. So if they feel the need to take the drug to get there faster, then we can work with them on building the right nutritional strategy in an environment where they're not hungry all the time. And then when they do choose to potentially go off of it, perhaps they can actually have that soft landing, right? Instead of the just rapid weight gain back because now they're hungry again. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's awesome. And, I was at a conference today. It was a fitness conference. And I had somebody ask me, like, what is a coach? And she was like, is it like a mentor? And I'm like, sometimes perhaps my client might feel like I'm in that role, but no, a coach is not a mentor. And she kept trying to find a synonym, like a one-word answer. Like I was stumped at trying to find one-word answer. There are so many different, I think, aspects of what coaches do that's kind of like a mentor, kind of like a consultant. Sometimes we provide education, sometimes, all these kinds of things. But at the end of the day, I was like, really, at the end of the day, a coach is someone who empowers the client to actually achieve the change they're looking for. And we use multiple tools to help our clients do that. But I was stymied at trying to find like a synonym.
I love that. I actually really like that definition. I think it is really hard. And I like that. I always tell people it's not about the modality or the tool. And I love that, empowers our clients to create the results that they want to create.
Yeah. So you went from being the kind of facilitator of change for individuals to finding there was a demand from other coaches that are like, what are you doing? and how can I replicate that for my business? So now you help coach these coaches. Can you speak to a little bit about, because I would love to really kind of dig into kind of marketing and some of the other things, but we're going to run out of time. But at the end of the day, I'd love to hear more about kind of what your business looks like now.
Yeah, so really the bulk of my business over the last 10 years is about training practitioners. So I lead a lot of trainings and advanced trainings on foundational coaching skills, on advanced coaching skills, on working with shadow, and then on working with groups, how to apply transformational skills to group work and to curriculum. So it's really all training practitioners on how to go deeper with clients, and how to do it in a way that's trauma informed and also ethical and in integrity.
Cool. So how do you work with coaches then? Do they work with you one-on-one, or what's your program like?
Yeah, so very few one-on-one these days. It's mostly group trainings, and they last anywhere, some are very short, 4 weeks, even sometimes a day. And then most of them are year-long. So I have a number of year-long programs, and I get to work with just tons of incredible coaches and practitioners every year and supporting them, and of course, like the juice and the magic for me is that I'm teaching the skills and the tools, but really I have to take all of these practitioners on their own inner journey. So I get to hold space and witness their own transformation as we do it.
So do you do like live training, in-person training? Is this done via Zoom? How do you facilitate it?
So mostly over Zoom. So international crowd. I had a couple of in-person programs that I had to suspend for a few years because of everything going on in the world. But starting in the autumn, we've been doing some in-person retreats as well, which is my favorite. I just love being in the room with people. But most of my programs at this point are Zoom, and I resisted it for years. I was like on the bridge lines forever. But finally in the last 3 years, I've come over to Zoom, and it's great.
Nice. Well, I'm quite certain a lot of our listeners will be interested in learning from you. So why don't you start filling us in on where they can do that?
Great. Well, I think maybe the best thing is on my website, I have a free gift that's all about how practitioners, it's just foundational pieces, but we go deep into how practitioners can work with shadow with their clients. Shadow is one of those terms that gets tossed around in the industry a lot. The way I teach it is through a very Jungian lens. It's the parts of ourselves that we've rejected, that we've made bad, that we've made wrong. But really, we all need all the parts of ourselves, all that resource in order to create what we want in our lives. And so it can be really useful for practitioners to support clients to reclaim their laziness, to reclaim their competition, all of those pieces. So if you go to my website, you can download that for free.
I love that. Letting people just embrace the sides of themselves that they've rejected this whole time. That just spiral shame. And you know what? Own it. It is what it is. What can you learn from it? Right? What does that side teach you to help you move forward? I think that's awesome. What a great gift. Thank you.
Of course.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This was great.
Oh, such a wonderful conversation. Thanks so much for having me. I loved it.
This podcast was brought to you by Primal Health Coach Institute. To learn more about how to become a successful health coach, get in touch with us by visiting primalhealthcoach.com/call. Or if you're already a successful health coach, practitioner, influencer, or thought leader with a thriving business and an interesting story, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us at hello@primalhealthcoach.com and let us know why we need to interview you for Health Coach Radio. Thanks for listening.